Thank you very much. Okay. So far, as well as me, we are three professionals that have spoken. And this presentation that I'm going to talk about is a research paper. What is special about it, autonomy, dependency, self-image or self-esteem, and quality of life of people with complex learning disability, adjustments, and functional disorder, and inclusive research. First of all, I think it's the longest title of any presentation given in the conference, so again, we deserve a lot of applause. I'm Dana Roth, Heli Peretz, we're from Betty Z. Shapiro's Research and Evaluation Department. Doron Lorenzi, Ruti Cohen, Yoni Simani, and Ofer Dafna are research partners, people with complex learning disabilities, function, and adjustment disorders. We are okay, very, very briefly. We know nothing about us without us, but our spirit at Betty Shapiro has been for several years no longer researching about us without us. Action research generates knowledge to impact practice. We don't do research for the sake of publishing articles, which we also do, by the way, but what is important for us is it is applied research, action research, and it is relevant for people with disabilities. Inclusive research, participatory research approach includes representative of those who are the subjects of research. This approach is geared to study the issues most relevant and important to the group that is being studied. This is very important to me to say because, as we know, 90% of research is totally not relevant to the people that are being studied. What does it mean? Usually it means for people to get professorship, academic advancements, and so forth. Based on findings of the research, one outcome is action. We expect that what we do is we'll perform some form of action, whether it's going to be action locally, close to the people themselves who have done the research or the people who have been studied, but mostly what we also want is to impact national policy. I'm not going to go to what is inclusive research, but there are different models. What I also want to say, many people state that they do inclusive research. Well, I have a lot of criticism about this because usually people think that if they do one focus group, because before they start doing research, it means inclusive. Well, it's not. In our case, our inclusive research really started from the beginning. The questions, the literature review, deciding what measures to use, everything until the end, we were the four groups. We started with more people. The four that remained are the ones that it was most apparently right for them. They had the ability to take part in it. It was important enough for them. And I want you to know that one thing is, we have met, in a minute I'll say it, but it doesn't matter whether it rains or shines, if it's 40 degrees or whatever, these people never miss a meeting, never. I don't know any academicians who have this kind of commitment. So, we are four, as I said, we are two professional researchers, Heli and me. We are the technicians. The four people with the disabilities are actually the experts. They're the experts on their life. They're the experts to know what they want to learn and what can impact people like them. We had 20 meetings, about 3 hours each for 3 years. It's a long process. Sometimes it's tiring. Sometimes it's annoying. Sometimes I can't stand them anymore. But I can tell you that we definitely, all of us, get out of the meetings excited with a high and with full fatigue and exhaustion. I have to say that being the director of research at BetEasy, I've adopted this approach because what I as a researcher have learned and are constantly learning in doing this kind of research is something I have never learned from any of my studies, from the research, from the literature review, etc. The research question was what they wanted to know. They wanted to know, is there a relationship, a correlation between autonomy, dependency, self-esteem or self-image, quality of life of people as they are. We did the literature review. Interestingly enough, almost no research around adults with complex learning disabilities. And these are the very few studies we found. In the discussion in the pre-study, these are the kind of issues that were raised. What is the difference between disability and dependency? Does disability mean dependence? Are autonomy and dependency antonyms? Are they opposite each other? Is autonomy positive and dependency negative? And what I do want you to suggest to you also is that whatever we've discussed and whatever I'm raising, think those people without disabilities here. Think about your own lives and see whether any of these issues are any different than issues of your issues if you ever stopped and thought about them. So we have chosen together research measures. Heli and I presented. I have to say, we have to adapt the literature, we have to adapt measures, we are the one who seek the information, fine. But they decided on what measures they thought were appropriate for the study. These measures were adapted. These measures were adapted. Quality of life questionnaire was one of them, autonomy and dependency scale, self-esteem questionnaire, and socio-demographic information. We did a pilot. These people went back to their friends and they did a pilot to see whether the measures fit. Do they have to be changed? Do they have to omit items? Do they have to add items? Do they have to make it more simplified language, etc., etc.? So these measures were adapted to fit their friends, their population. So the research measures were quality of life questionnaire. Those of you who would be interested later, I will share with you what that was. So I'm not going to go into this now due to lack of time. Autonomy and dependence scale. I want you people to fill that questionnaire. And you're going to have a lot of questions about your own lives also. Autonomy in relationships is one of them. Second is autonomy in thinking. Or maybe the right thing would be more independent thinking. And initiations. And the third measure was the self-esteem questionnaire. Okay. So, first of all, the respondents were recruited by the researchers with disability. They went, they had meetings, they explained why they're doing this study, and they recruited them, told them why it's important for them to join. The ones who wanted to join, join. They're the ones who supported respondents. Some respondents could respond to the questions themselves, paper, pencil. Some of them needed to be questions read. Some of them had to be interviewed. They're the ones who did it all. Heli and I didn't do any of this. They're the ones who collected the questionnaires, and they're the ones who brought it to our office. Very briefly, you can see that we had 109 responses at this time, mostly from Central Israel, mostly from Nitzan, Tel Aviv. I'm saying this because, in brackets, I want to say, not all organizations want this kind of research to be done in their organizations. It can cause a lot of headaches afterwards. People become empowered, people learn, sometimes people know more than the social workers know, and so forth, and some organizations don't want this disturbance. Okay, so you can really briefly see male, female. In terms of residence setting, some are independent, some live with their parents, some live in what we call satellite residence, some are in training apartments, etc. Employed, unemployed, mostly are employed, and most of them are single, and some 31% are in relationships. Okay, so I want to go directly to the data. The data, what it showed us, and I'm giving very brief, very overall information, of course. I'm not going to the inside analysis of sorts. Quality of life overall, which is the mean of all the scores asked, not bad. 3.5, many of you probably out of a scale of 4. I wish most of you also would have a reasonably good quality of life. As you see, self-esteem gets to be a little lower. And autonomy in relationships is a very complex measure. The fact that it's less than 2.5 does not mean that they're not autonomous, but autonomy and dependency, as we know in relationship, is a very, very complex issue. So nobody could be totally autonomous in a relationship. Part of it is having a dependency. But what I want to say, and I didn't say, that we actually are, this is part of a larger study we're doing, where we also, us as a group, are doing it with a group from Bar Ilan University, regular students, and in comparing to regular individuals, their score is actually a little lower. They're more autonomous, okay? So this is a very, very interesting area that we would like to investigate a little more deeper. In terms of independent thinking, you see that they're 2.5. It's much lower than their self-esteem and quality of life, and initiative is also quite low. In terms of what we did was, oops, okay, missed that, 1 second, page up. Okay, I'm going to go from the lower correlation. A correlation is the relationship between two variables. Do they connect? All of the correlations I'm showing now are positive correlation. In other words, when one goes up, the other one goes up. One goes down, the other one goes down. In this case, they're both all positive. And I'm going from the low ones. They're all very, very significant. I'm sorry, I can't go into what it means, significance in statistics, but what it means is, generally is, that these are relationships that are statistically meaningful, which means that probably if we will go to other groups of people of similar disabilities, this would be also the relationships between those two issues that we're showing. So one is independent thinking and quality of life. Not a very strong correlation. It's significant, but it's not that strong. We're going to go to the next one. That's stronger. That is going to be starting to be quite meaningful. That there's a relationship between self-esteem and initiative. And then we go, this is even stronger, initiative and quality of life, which makes also a lot of sense. Okay, let's think about it also in terms of our life. And then the really two strong one, quality of life and self-esteem, are highly correlated, again, very significant, and the highest. Autonomy in relationships and initiative. What is it really that in relationship correlates with initiatives? Okay. So, one other interesting findings we had, among all the independent variables or the socio-demographic variables, we looked at only one, not whether employed or not employed, not whether they lived in this kind of setting or the other setting. The one that came out very interesting was whether they were single or in a relationship. In a relationship, we didn't define it as necessarily an intimate relationship or so forth, whatever they define it as being in a relationship. Quality of life for the single people, as you see. Quality of life, for the single people, this was quality of life, almost 3.2, self-esteem a little lower. Maybe not surprising. For the people in relationships, both are significantly higher. So the issue of the social and the relationships and contact were very important. So what are the conclusions we so far have found? Relationships is an area where emphasis must take place. Its complexity, significance, and self-esteem and quality of life with relations to independence and dependence, etc. The correlation of independent thinking and initiative, the implication for early intervention, how do we, in education, how do we give children the opportunity for independent thinking, for initiative, not telling them constantly what to do, not constantly correcting them, not allowing them to fail, not allowing them to learn from failure, and of course, learn from success. The correlations of self-esteem and quality of life and the fact of those in relationships rate in higher self-esteem. We have several recommendations. First, I want to say that inclusive research is a must when conducting research on lives of people. It's critical in formulation of relevant questions and in selecting measures. Second, in the future, measures of efficacy and self-efficacy should be included in these kind of studies. And I thank you. I want to say just one more word that we have done inclusive research with people with intellectual developmental disabilities as well. And today, none of the research or evaluation that is done at Beth Ischia Shapiro is done in any approach except for the inclusive approach, not always fully inclusive from beginning to end, but there's certainly all the subjects, so-called, always is a presentation of them as part of the researching model.